Hello and welcome to the Convo. I am Ebony Chappelle, Manager of Programs and Communications for Leadership Indianapolis. And today I am talking with Sarah Myer of Indiana Sports Corp. Sarah is also a board member of Leadership Indianapolis, and you're SKL too, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
what's your class?
42.
I love how you had to take a pause. Sometimes it's like
Right?
that. When you do so many things, you're like, okay, let me recalibrate real quick.
Always like, because we're always like doing events by numbers too. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just say the best class. There we go.
The best class.
Oh, that's what everyone
Yeah,
says.
exactly. But you know what? Maybe everybody just had the best class.
There you go.
Maybe it's
Exactly.
possible. There's multiple best. So yeah, I mentioned that you are with Indiana Sports Corp, leading up marketing and things like that over there. We are a huge sports city. But coronavirus, of course, has changed up so many things as far as what it is that we're doing. How has your team been navigating all of this right now?
Yeah, it's been so challenging, I think, for all of us. But you know, within the event space, it's an extra set of challenges just because that's what you do. Your job is to bring people together and excite people, and when that is taken away, it's really hard to achieve your mission. So I think that's what our biggest challenge was when you have this big part of your mission taken away. How do you keep going to impact the community through sports as we have? So I'll never forget that day when things just started shutting down. It was like the lights just went off everywhere. And I think what's funny is I didn't, all these events were getting canceled, and I didn't even put together that the world was about to shut down. Like everything was shutting
Wow.
down. Yeah, I just remember
Yeah.
thinking, God, this is the worst. Like all of our events are gone or canceled, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, this is a bigger thing. This is bigger than just
Yeah.
this is our livelihood for the next year. Really trying to think through a new normal. So what we really wanted to do was figure out, okay, how do we continue our impact when we can't really gather tons of people? And I think we've really worked through that in figuring out how do we rebuild our city through the impact that sports does have. And sports has been able to really bring communities together yet again. And I think that's what I love about sports. And what I love about arts and culture too, which I think that has been a huge sector that has come together with sports to help
Mm-hmm.
really bring our community back. And I'm sure I'll talk a little bit about that with March Madness and everything that we have going on. But we, as a team, specifically, we actually started coming back to our offices in June of 2020.
Okay.
Voluntary, but just I think our president saw that our mission is to impact our city, and I think he wanted us to be here continuing that impact. And I personally loved it because I am someone who gets energy from being around people. I'm a creative
Mm-hmm.
person, so my creativity is energized a bit more when I am around people. So I think I was very grateful that they found a safe way for us to come back to the office, but also made it the option of our staff and just said, hey, whatever you feel comfortable with. So we've been coming together, putting bids together for future events, really looking out into the years 2022 and beyond, and saying, okay, when we can convene people, let's bring events here to really build back up our economy. So a lot of work on that. We did throw some in-person events in 2020, obviously learning a lot about COVID health and safety
Oh, I'm
guidelines and
sure. I'm sure.
working with all of that. I think we really had a new appreciation for listening to our people too. When you're throwing events and you have this whole new layer of operating in a pandemic, you really have to be aware that of how everyone's feeling and that everyone is different. So you can't just assume that one plan works for all. You have to be able to compromise and be able to be open to change, which I think a lot of nonprofits were kind of thrown into that. Oh my gosh, I have to accept change to move forward, which I think sometimes is hard for organizations.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
kind of risk averse. So So yeah, so that was a big learning experience for us. But then in November, I mean, we had always been planning on hosting the Final Four. We did not know what that was going to look like for.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to ask you. I see you got your March Madness swag going today. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been planning for the Final Four since before the pandemic.
Hmm.
And since the pandemic hit, I mean, we've still been meeting with the NCAA, trying to figure out what it looks like, making all the contingency plans possible. And then, in November, we were made aware that it was possible that the NCAA could bring the entire tournament here. And so that was a huge turning point for us because, you know, we saw this as an opportunity not only to, help the NCAA, a great partner of ours who has been in the city for almost over 20 years, help execute this really important event. I mean, they basically said there's no room for failure here. These student athletes cannot get ripped of another season.
Yeah.
It was devastating for these guys.
Hmm.
It was devastating for me as planning the event. I can't even imagine being a student athlete and that having that just ripped away. So they were like, we have to get this done. We have to figure out how to do this. And we think Indianapolis is to this problem.
Hmm. And
But
yeah,
we also
and at this point, you all are doing all of the basketball. It's going to be happening
yes,
in the state
yes,
of Indiana. Yeah, and I hear, the question come up a lot in the community because we're still living in COVID time, and
absolutely.
there are people that still haven't yet been vaccinated, et cetera. So it's a touchy area, but still, a lot of people want this to happen. How
Yep.
are you guys? I know you mentioned, different contingency plans, but how are you guys making it super safe, and how are you communicating that to the community that this is something that is being done safely?
Yeah, so we recently announced that we will have up to 25% capacity at the venues, but really that's gonna vary a lot. I mean, we are saying up to 25%, but we have to account for, first off, from the get-go, we were allowing the players, the teams, and 6 members of their friends or family per team member. So those are definitely going to be in there. But then you have to account that every venue is different and every layout is different. So some of the media members and all of their equipment will have to take out a lot of the capacity. So
Oh
truly, we don't
yeah.
know how many people will actually be in there because we have to make sure that we account for all of the room that is needed for all of these things to happen.
Because this is televised and everything, so many parts.
Exactly. So many moving parts. So as far as we've gotten a lot of questions about capacity and if there's going to be public tickets, and we'll know more, I think, at the beginning of March. We just know that capacity is what we can go up to. But I would say we have been working on health and safety plans for months. And as far as communicating, this city is going to see a lot of signage, both in the venues and outside of the venues, as far as obviously wearing face masks, keeping a social distance, washing your hands, staying home if you feel sick. I mean, all of the messaging that we've heard, but we are really going to be pushing that to not only, the people coming in, but the visitors and even residents that might be coming downtown just to enjoy what's going on. We're really going to be pushing that. With our restaurants and establishments, we have a lot of support from the city to really help get them ready, have the information they need, but continue to tell them, don't blow 3 weeks in one day. Like, we have to make sure that we're adhering to these guidelines so we can provide a great environment, but a healthy and safety environment as well. And then I know I'm not as involved as what's happening in the venues and inside the bubble, but I'm on a lot of conversations about testing and protocols and contact tracing and all of that. So they're in constant communication with the Marion County Health Department. So those conversations, that's not just happening a couple of times a month. Those are ongoing. And I think the resources that we've had, both with the NCAA, with the Marion County Health Department, and then a lot of our health partners around town, they have been so incredibly helpful at telling us, a lot about how we should operate and how much we should test and how many people we should have. I mean, typically, I mean, from a media standpoint, even we would have maybe up to 1,000 media in the venue to cover a game. We'll have 25 credentialed media, 25. So that shows you like how much we have
25 across the entire tournament
in each venue.
in each
So
venue.
for each
Okay,
game.
wow.
Yeah. So it's just going to be, it's going to look different, but I think these are the measures that we have to take. And again, to achieve that top priority, that top goal of executing a healthy and safe game for these student athletes.
I had myself muted for a minute.
You're fine.
But there is so much leadership that's required to be able to navigate these uncharted waters. I mean, this is our first time, a lot of us, our lifetime living through a pandemic. So, what is one leadership lesson that you've acquired throughout your years that helps guide where you are right now?
Yeah, I think it's empathy. So that has been, I've learned a lot about that throughout my years, but that was definitely pushed this past year. And I think it's about really trying to understand people where they are, and that everyone is different. So a really good example is, when we came back to the office, I was really excited and ready to come back to the office. That doesn't mean that the person in the office right next to me feels the same way. And I have to respect that and understand that, they are coming from a different background, maybe, different family life, different experiences that have influenced how they feel about all of what's going on. And so I have to be cognizant of that when I'm operating with them and trying to achieve these high goals of executing this event. So I think everyone has been challenged with trying to be as empathetic as possible, and it gets challenged. I mean, when you're coming from a different place or a different perspective, you really have to call yourself out and say, hey, like, am I taking into consideration how this person is feeling or what this person is going through? And I think that that's incredibly important. So
Yeah, that's such a great one. It's one of those things that gives us an opportunity to grow and develop and just become the best us that we can possibly be,
yeah,
for sure.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Sarah, for your time today.
yeah,
Appreciate learning all about what's happening with March Madness and the NCAA. How
yeah.
can
Really
people
quick,
find out more information? Oh, go ahead,
can I give a
please.
little update, like on some
Yeah.
you have going on, just so everyone knows? There's going to be a lot that the Lilly Endowment actually helped fund, that is going to involve arts and culture, and really infuse that as people come downtown. So we don't know how many fans will be here. We don't know how many visitors will be here, but what our goal was really around this event was, let's make this a hospitable place that we all know and love, an inclusive place that we all know and love, and really try and welcome people, not just visitors, but residents. Because I think a lot of people who live here are probably going to still be, rediscovering downtown and rediscovering their city through this event. So we have a lot of murals that are going to be going up. We have 4 large court murals curated by the Arts Council. And then we will have murals and activations in vacant spaces throughout downtown. And then we are going to have live music and performing arts throughout the city at different times, really from March 18th until the Final Four. So all of that information is likely going to be on visitindy.com. And you'll be able to figure out schedules and how you can engage in a safe and healthy way, of course, but really coming back downtown and rediscovering what's so wonderful about it. And I know that our restaurants and establishments are really excited to welcome people and hopefully get some great business and, have that great city feeling again here in March and April.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Yeah.
again, Sarah, for your
Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Great talking with you.
Good
And
to talk
thank
to
you.
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you to each and every one of you for tuning into the Convo. For more information on Leadership Indianapolis, you can visit leadershipindianapolis.com.